Harvey. I've been going through more of Alex's interview tapes. I found something quite alarming that seems to have been very quickly dismissed. He says his keycard was stolen earlier on the day of the explosion. He said he tried to log it with Carla Berman. I'm not sure how frequently she leaves her office, but if you can somehow gain access, you may be able to find evidence linking her to Alex's keycard.
I am so bored. Steve, I'm leaving my desk for 15 minutes now.
Hey, alright, how you doing? You alright, Mr. Miller?
detected. Attention. Floppy disk corrupted.
Alex was told that his family was already gone, but actually they were still a day away from being processed. All Charles had to do was make a phone call and he could have had his whole family released without any paperwork.
So Charles Bowman was lying to Mr. Dubois?
No, I don't think so. I think he was just...
Withholding information?
I think it was just negligence. He's not an inherently bad person. I know it'd fit better if he was the bad guy in all this, but I just don't think he would have done that.
Okay, that's fine. Did Bowman and Alex have a history of contention at all?
No, never. You've got to understand, all of this was a surprise. Charles didn't order this to happen. We just processed the paperwork that came in, and Alex's was one of them.
So why didn't Charles Bowman try harder to sort it out?
This is where it gets complicated.
Hey, sir, this is off limits. I'll still find you.
Floppy disk detected. Attention. Floppy disk corrupted. Use data doctor to amend. Floppy disk detect. Attention. Floppy disk corrupted. Use data doctor to amend corrupted disks. Floppy disk detect attention. Floppy disk corrupted. Use data doctor to amend corrupted disk. closing. Doors opening.
Steve, I'm just getting a drink of water. Can you cover me?
Harvey, I just received an anonymous fax. Do you know where the Turing meeting room is? It seems as though Alex Dubois may have hidden some information in there which proves the Bowman Carson Group are intentionally inflating figures based around the Union Act. If you're able to find the evidence, it may help inform the public about what the truth is here. I'm sure Carla Berman may have a thing or two to say about those figures, since she's the one spreading them in her print media. Anyway, let me know what you find.
Oh, I'm sweating buckets, mate.
I don't have patience for this. Where is he? Are you supposed to be in here? Come on, Mr. Miller, out. Oh, Mr. Miller, if you don't leave, then I'm going to have to call security. Look, just pack it in. I'm going to call security.
Steve, I've had a security alert. I've paged you the location.
Hey, Mr. Miller, I know you probably don't know anything about this, but something happened in one of the out-of-bounds areas earlier on. So if you could just stay in the allocated areas, just for your safety, that would be great. Thanks.
Mr. Miller, your meeting is in 10 minutes. Don't be late.
I hope you're alright, Mr. Miller.
Please insert token. The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. Please try later.
Hello, Mr. Miller, how are you doing?
Hello. You've reached the Lost Property Office. There's nobody available to take your call at the moment. For any inquiries, visit Gemma Hughes in room 103 on floor 1. Alternatively, if you know which locker your possessions are in, please bring the relevant access card. Thank you.
Mr. Miller, quick reminder. You have a meeting in 5 minutes.
Oh, I'm sweating buckets, mate.
Hello, Mr. Miller. Please come in and take a seat.
So I gather you've got some questions you'd like to ask me. I'll do my best to answer them. Shall we begin? Well, you've been here about an hour. It was only a matter of time. I take it was addressed to us and not you. More often than I'd like to admit, yes. It's bad enough that we can't even walk in the front door of our workplace without having objects hurled at us, but it's... But the people protesting are completely ignorant to what we actually do here. Sometimes I just want to roll my window up and shout down to them to get a job and start contributing to the country instead of ruining it. I'm sorry. He thinks I'm lying. That's not really news, Mr. Miller. I think anyone in the country could have told you what Alex thinks about what we do here. He has a twisted view of things. Out of curiosity, what is it he thinks is so bad about the act? Well, this is getting far-fetched, and I suppose I'm the one lying to the country. Don't answer that. I'm sorry, but I have to deal with this kind of accusation day in and day out. I guess it's an occupational necessity. If by propaganda you mean the important work I do here, then I'd ask you to be a little bit more respectful of the current political climate, Mr. Miller. We are very thorough with our work here, so I'm sure whatever you think you found will be easily cleared up. I make the posters and advertising materials, but I'm not in charge of the figures that make them up. For that, you'd have to speak to someone like Chance Crow over in the Meta Centre. Let me ask you something, Mr. Miller. You've heard the protesters, you've seen our work here. Do you believe the Union Act is good? Frankly, I'm fed up of having to defend my views on the matter. I'm sure you're going to write a very compelling story about us, whichever side you choose to fall on. I hope you realise that misleading the country is the easiest way to pull it apart. I don't believe that's what I'm doing, and I'm sure you don't either. Let's hope you have a productive afternoon here and can see what it is we're trying to create. That poster is designed to inspire the people into believing. I'm sorry, I'm not going to play this game. I'm good at what I do, and that's that. I believe I've said all I have to on the matter. He says he wasn't in the building. Well, I don't know how he'd be able to back up that claim. The police found him not too far away from here, that's true, but it was within walking distance. He could have easily got where he did in time, and there's a whole bunch of other evidence. I'm sorry, I just don't see how he thinks that's going to hold any weight. Like who? No, I don't think so. I think it's quite cut and dry. I can't imagine someone else over in the Meta Centre doing it. They like to sound like they know what they're doing, but most of them are incompetent. I know for a fact that some of them use their room number for their alarm code, for God's sake. Does that sound convincing to you? Alex was the only one who really knew what he was doing, and anyway, it's like I said, There was more evidence, wasn't there? Well, for example, the argument we had the night of the attack. Alex and I were having a heated discussion that night. I know that's somewhat anecdotal, but to me it's as good as gold in terms of evidence. Wouldn't you agree? That must be a mistake, surely. I was sure... Maybe now that I think about it... I mean, that could have been earlier, perhaps. So, he was calling from outside the facility? It's hard to remember that night clearly now, but there it is. Does it really? I mean, it just shows that he could have just... I don't know. Well, I don't know where you got those phone records, Mr. Miller, but I'm not sure how they can help. I don't think I've anything else to add on that point. Nothing comes to mind. Excuse me, what? I didn't say anything about an alarm code. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I must have misspoken. Everyone in the Meta Centre is very careful with their security. I wouldn't... well, let's not dwell on that. No, it was another office. Can we please move on to a different subject, Mr. Miller? Don't you have something about my work that you'd like to ask at all? A vendetta against him? Well, that was blunt, but honestly, I'm not surprised. I wondered if you'd bring this up. It's rather troubling, but Alex and I never seemed to get on. And on the night of the attack, he threatened me. I didn't want to make this publicly personal, but it looks like he has anyway. Yes, he left me a voice message. He was very angry about something, and he took it out on me that night. I have no doubts in my mind that man is guilty of everything they say he did. And I'm frankly amazed that anyone would stand up for him. No offence. Well, you have done your research. I feel bad for what happened to Alex. I really do, but I can't be held responsible for every little action taken. It may have sounded like Alex was the victim, but I can assure you, I felt very threatened by his message. You heard what he said. Everything that happens next is because of me. And we all know what happened next. Well, you don't sugarcoat your words, Mr. Miller. But tell me, what do you think about it? No, I suppose it doesn't. But I'm not here to defend my actions, Mr. Miller. Anyway, you heard the tape. I think it speaks for itself. Well, I don't envy you your job. Shall we move on? Is that what he said? That his keycard was stolen? Well, I don't think there's any way I could confirm or deny that for you, Mr. Miller. I'm not even sure what that would have to do with me. I don't believe it was stolen, so
It would be futile for me to try and answer that. We were all responsible for our own key cards and security logins. Actual keys aren't used in this part of the building. It's all very cutting edge, so anything like that would have been solely down to Alex. That just seems like conjecture to me, Mr. Miller. It sounds far too convenient to say that he logged it as stolen on the day that it happened. If that's true, then where did he log it? At what time? Wouldn't security know about that? I'm sorry, but it's all a little too convenient for me. I don't remember that at all, I can assure you. That email must have gone through to my inbox just after I had the chance to see it. I believe that your research is accurate, I honestly do, but there's no way of knowing now if it was filed. Honestly, it's escaped my memory, and all of the records were destroyed in the blast, so... It appears that he might be, at least about that, but I ask you, what does that really prove? Or that he was clever enough to cover his tracks before he committed a terrible act of terrorism. You may find this a hot topic for your book, Mr. Miller, but I'm not convinced at all. I would be careful who you share this information with, Mr. Miller. Did I? Few things around here probably still use keys. It's outdated if you ask me. You won't find anything in the facility that uses them, though. Our security protocol won't allow them. But I think the older areas still have the old-fashioned key and lock. No. Marlon Thornton, the cleaner, he's the only person who uses them for stock rooms and locker rooms, you know. Oh, that reminds me. If you're over at the Meta Centre later, you should take a look at the old Victorian baths. They're going to be knocked down soon, so you should take a look there before you go. No, they're just quite nice. I tell you what, I'll ask Marlon to open them up for you later on. If he's got time, then they'll be open for you when you go and have your meeting with Chance Crow. Anyway, Okay, Mr. Miller, that's all I've got time for, I'm afraid. Can you please see yourself out?
Hi, I'm home.
Because we don't want our hands tied by the law every time we have to make a decision. But we won't be long. Just remember one. The world is changing around us. I agree. I have no idea why you're still wearing the same clothes you were wearing in the 70s. I'm not going to change your mind on this, am I?
Molly, you'd better be in bed when I get up there.
Coop, will you talk some sense into your husband, please?
Well, I'm staying out of this one.
Right. On that note, I'll see myself out.
You and Carol still here for Sunday dinner?
Don't forget to pass that folder on to Sarah in the morning, okay?
Wouldn't miss it.
Well, Mr. Miller, thank you for being so respectful of the rules in our facility. You wouldn't believe the amount of people we have to tell to leave staff-only areas. I hope your meeting with Miss Burman was productive. Your next meeting is with Chance Crow very soon. Feel free to take a wander around in our gardens. I'll be waiting for you over in the Meta Center when you're ready to begin.
Right. I know most people couldn't be here today as it's the weekend, but I just want to thank everybody who was able to make it in. I guess I should start by saying that we will not be intimidated. That we will not stand without a fight. The people who stand against us, they don't want change. In fact, they fear it. And they won't stop until we fear it too. I'd also have to say that...
Oh, not this again.
Yeah, sorry. I have a letter here from Mrs. Foster. Many of you may have known her son, who was sadly lost in the attack. She writes, My son was many things to me, and to those who knew him best. A loving brother, a good friend, and someone to make you laugh when times were at their hardest. I do not know all of you the way my beloved son did, but I like to think that all the things I saw in him, you also saw on a daily basis. Aaron wasn't the only person to be taken in that blast, but he is the only one I can talk about with any certainty. And that is to say this. He died knowing that every one of his colleagues will not let his death have been in vain. That the family he raised will not live in a world devoid of the presence of his actions. That his deeds whilst alive will live on through all of us in his death. And that we would not falter to do justice to his memory. To the memories of all the families affected in this terrible time. I do not know all of you the way my beloved son did, but I think fondly of you all, and I cherish the kindness you've shown our family in our time of need. Kindest regards, Jennifer Foster. Now, if we could all bow our heads, we'll observe a moment of silence.
Photo was taken the day before it all happened. How fragile a life can be. It can all shatter in an instant. The server room that held all the information, destroyed. If only it had been that easy. Dust was caked to every surface. It was hard to see anything. There were no obvious paths to take me to where Michael had been found. What was Michael even doing in there? He should have come home from work. Put Molly to sleep, and we should have been eating a curry on the sofa with a glass of wine, for God's sake. I couldn't understand it at the time. How had it come to this? We were talking about the future. That seems so stupid now, doesn't it? There's no way I could have known. This would hopefully help me find my way a little better. All lives lost. James, he was round for dinner with Amy just 2 days before all this happened. Jake and so much fun making forts in the basement. He'd cry out for help as Michael would pretend to be a tiger screaming in the long grass. Entire floors torn into one another. Was found in. Did I cause this?
Magnetic data found.
Lives ruined. Torn. They woke up that morning, went to work and never returned. Michael's towel's still sat on the floor where he left it. I can't bear to pick it up. He should be the one doing it. I always told him to clean up after himself, but he never listened. Some of the security was still engaged. They were trapped. Stairs were blown out. I pushed and clawed my way through. I had to see it. I had to see where I climbed. A nail, it tore my jumper. Can you believe it? My husband was found in the room next door, and for a split second, I actually paused to care about a torn jumper. Trapped. No exit. And they said all the metal was burning hot. Did he suffer? That's the not knowing, isn't it? That's what really haunts you. The Silhouette server. Somehow it had survived the blast. The irony of it wasn't lost on me. The disc was lodged in the pneumatic system. I thought about Michael. In his last moments, struggling to get to it. He knew that was the key to prevent the overheating. He had no hope of reaching the fuse box.